Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to your English grammar class. In this session, I'll be teaching you finite and non-finite verbs. So let's get started. Before moving ahead, let me tell you the classification of verbs. That is, verbs are mainly classified into two categories, and they are helping verbs and main verbs. Under the category of helping verbs, there are two more types, and they are primary verbs and modals. Primary verbs are further classified into three more types, and those are verbs of being, verbs of possession, and verbs of action. Verbs of being include is, am, are, was, were, be, been, and being. Verbs of possession are has, have, had, and verbs of action are do, does, did. You have already read about them previously. Then comes the second type, modals. They are also called as modal verbs or auxiliaries. And this type include can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, etc., which you can see on your screens. Then comes the second type of verbs, that is main verbs. They are finite and non-finite verbs. Finite verbs are further divided into transitive and intransitive verbs, which you are already aware. You have read about them, you have learnt about them in your previous classes. And non-finite verbs are divided into three main types, and they are infinitives, gerunds, and participles. But our main focus today is on finite and non-finite verbs, so let's discuss them one by one. First of all, let me tell you a broader definition of finite and non-finite verbs. A verb that is limited by the number and the person of its subject, and a verb that is limited by the tense of the sentence, is called a finite verb. On the other hand, non-finite verb is that verb which is not limited by the number and the person of its subject and the tense of the sentence. Now you people must be wondering about this definition of finite and non-finite verbs, because it is a bit difficult for you people. Let me explain it to you in detail. When I say a finite verb is that verb which must agree with the subject in number and person. That means a finite verb is that verb which changes its form with the subject, with the number and person of the subject, in fact. Number means when the subject is singular, the verb should also be singular, and when the subject is plural, verb should also be plural. This means that a finite verb changes with the change in the number of the subject. And when we say person, person in grammar means first person, second person, third person. As you people know, first person is I, we, second person is you, and third person is he, she, it, they. You know this much. So a finite verb is that verb which also changes its form with the person of the subject. Finite verb is also that verb which changes its form when we change the tense of the sentence. So the definition of finite verb, easy definition of finite verb is that a finite verb is that verb which changes its form with the change in the number and person of the subject and the tense of the sentence. You will understand this fully with the help of these examples which I have written here. Here I will show you how does a finite verb change as per person of the subject. I have written here an example, I run a mile daily. Here the first person I is used, That's why I have used the verb run. When I change first person into third person, he, the verb also changes. So it becomes runs. He runs a mile daily. Here it shows how the finite verb changed with the change in the subject, in the person of the subject. First person changed into third person. That's why run changed into runs. This is how a finite verb changes as per the person of the subject. Now here is how does a finite verb change as per the number. In first sentence, apple is singular. That's why the verb is. Apple is of red color. Singular subject is there, apple. That's why is there. And when the number changed from singular to plural, apples. So the verb also changed from is to are. This is again the finite verb. Is and are, they are both finite verbs because they changed according to the number of the subject. One more thing is there. A finite verb also changes with the change in the tense of the sentence. As you know, the tenses are present, past and future. In first sentence, you can see, I play cricket every day. Play shows that it is present tense. But when we change play to played, the tense changed. So the finite verb also changed with the change in the tense. It changed from present to past and it became played. Previously it was play. So here it shows how does a finite verb change as per the tense of the sentence. So all these examples proved how a finite verb changes its form with the change in the number and person of the subject and with the change in the tense of the sentence. I think this much is clear. Now let's move towards non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs are opposite to finite verbs. That means they don't change their form. They are not limited by the number and person of the subject. And they don't change their form when the tense of the sentence is changed. Here are two examples. See, I found his office at a walking distance. In first sentence, two verbs are there. One is found and another is walking. When I change the tense of the sentence, here, Akash will find his office at a walking distance. So I changed the tense from past to future. Found became will find. So when I changed the tense, finite verb also changed, but another tense, walking, it remained same in both the sentences and it shows found and will find. They are finite verbs, and walking in both the sentences, they are non-finite verbs. So here it showed how non-finite verb is not dependent on the number or person and tense of the sentence. Let me tell you some more features of finite and non-finite verbs. You know, finite verbs, they act as a verb in a sentence. They are actually playing the role of the main verb in a sentence. You cannot find a sentence without a finite verb. You can never find a sentence without a finite verb, but you can sometimes find a sentence without a non-finite verb. That means non-finite verbs, they do not act as the main verbs. They act as helping verbs or any other verbs in the sentence. Finite verbs, they act as main verbs in a sentence or a clause. On the other hand, non-finite verbs, they act as adjectives, nouns or adverbs in a sentence. So we learned that finite verbs indicate number, person and tense, and non-finite verbs, they do not indicate number, person and tense. This much is clear to you. Now let's see some more examples of finite versus non-finite verbs and how are they used in different types of sentences. Here we go. First sentence is I went to school to study. Past tense is used here, that's why went is used. In second sentence, he will go to school to study. Here you can find went and will go. These two show different tenses. Went shows past and will go, it shows future. So when the tense is changed, verb changes, but this verb to study and this to study, they remain same in spite of changing the tense. So went and will go, they are finite verbs, and to study in both the sentences are non-finite verbs. Similarly, sentence number 3 and 4. He goes to school to study. Goes is used with he, and they go to school to study. Singular subject, singular verb, plural subject, plural verb, but study remained same in both the sentences. So goes and go, they are finite verbs, and to study in both the sentences, they are non-finite verbs. Sentence number 5 and 6. When apple is singular, is used. Apple is of red color. Apples plural, so are is used. So is and are, they are both finite verbs because they change it with the change in the number of the subject. So here we understood the finite versus non-finite verbs and their use in different types of sentences. I think this much is clear to you, and we have learnt about finite and non-finite verbs. What is the difference between the two? Then non-finite verbs are further classified into 3 more types, and they are infinitive, gerund and participles. And again, it is a very important concept topic in English grammar, which we will be studying in our next lecture, inshallah. Hope you must have understood everything about finite and non-finite verbs. See you next time. Till then, take care. Fi amanillah.